Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Hey, it's another year, another time to make some more money, and I've got the course for you. Start the conversation, get the meeting will help your team, both business development, sales development, get into those new cold accounts, whether that function is under marketing or sales. I'll help you with that by starting organic, natural conversations, not pitching. Have people open up with you, build up a connection with them, understand your total addressable market, prioritize it, and put in a system that scales, that's predictable, that works the way you want it to work instead of the old school pitch. Believe me, I've sat through so many of these cold calling seminars, courses, books, and I've been doing it for 30 years, and it's evolved. And what I'm doing today is what's working in today's world. It works naturally, and people are just loving it, getting meetings, closing deals, and doing it without the rejection that is typically there in sales. So check it out at b2brevenue.com under the training tab. You can schedule a call with me. We can talk it over. I'll explain how it works and how we can work together on it. You can buy it per student, or I'll customize it for your particular product and team and coach you through that process. Also, if you're a sales leader and you want predictability, you want direction, momentum, and control with your deals, you can sign up for that course as well. Same type of model. A year-long access to it. It's content, community, and coaching, all included at b2brevenue.com. You can get my free ebook there on how companies make product selections. That's all free. Let's get into the interview, but I want to make sure you're checking out my partners. They're in the show notes. This week, it's Pipedrive and CoVideo. Pipedrive is the new CRM. It's been out for 5 years. I've been using it forever. I love that. It's connected up with your email, your calendar, and now they have team capabilities. CoVideo is the video email system. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's the way to break into new accounts. It's so much more engaging than text. Check them out. Also, make sure you're checking me out on LinkedIn, Brian G. Burns on LinkedIn. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey, Brian, thank you. And super thrilled to be here. I just came from a company all hands call and got to talk through with the collective team the evolution that we've gone through since I joined 6 months ago on connected revenue operations, as well as give the company a tour through Clary and how our quarter looks. But my background, for most of my career was in business process sales and working for some of the largest companies on earth like SAP and then Oracle, and leading, going from an individual contributor to various levels of management. And in those roles, seeing the complexity of really rolling up a business, running a business and integrating with the other parts of that business. I got to a point in my career where I was ready to reinvent myself, and I went and looked for some earlier stage companies. And about 3 years ago, I did my first early stage company, which is a company called datascience.com as CRO, where I had the privilege of joining pre-revenue and owning everything from marketing, sales through customer success, and then going on a journey through acquisition by Oracle and finding myself back in Oracle. And having gone through that, right, going from Oracle back into Oracle, but going through that, my DNA had changed. So I got the education that I wanted. Sometimes when you go pre-revenue, the education can be a little bit scary, but it was definitely worth the time, and it was a great place, and I learned a lot. And when I got back to Oracle, I found myself running about a $230 million business annually, rolling up multiple lines of business, and I really saw the challenge that companies have in understanding, the complexity of their business, the shape of that business, how their reps were doing, where they needed to apply pressure, where they needed to lean in, and just the amount of time that was spent doing non-sales productive exercises. And so, that and the culmination of wanting to see a company through the growth phase led me to Clary. And, one of the things that really got me excited about Clary was not just the product, but talking to friends of mine who were at companies that leveraged Clary. You don't really hear sales reps show a lot of emotion or a lot of care about a solution that they need to use. But overwhelmingly, I heard from folks that I knew and cared about how amazing Clary was to use. And so a lot of things led me here. And so I'm now 6 months this week in Clary.
Great. So it must be, I mean, so you had that kind of pendulum to the complete opposite, that pre-revenue. And then now
Yes.
you're kind of back closer to revenue, but certainly a lot smaller than a portfolio company like Oracle. And you've probably seen the last 15 years that the amount of technology and information has kind of overwhelmed sales.
Yes.
You know, and I heard from you and I've heard from the analysts is like, reps are spending about 25 to 35% of their time doing traditional sales stuff, talking to clients, the stuff that generates revenue, as opposed to administrate revenue.
Correct.
What are you hearing from either your clients or your prospects or your peers out there?
Yeah, I think, B2B sales, right? If you think about, right, tech sales, SaaS sales has really transitioned from an on-prem world to cloud and SaaS. And, the customer and the way they buy has changed dramatically, right? From where 70% of purchase decisions are now happening pre-engagement, right? There's enough information out there that customers are making a lot of decisions before they ever interact with a sales rep. And the subscription model is completely changed that. And if you think about it, I have the privilege of, in this role, talking to a lot of heads of sales and a lot of CROs, and they're all kind of thinking through the same challenges, which is, all right, I've got marketing system, I've got a CRM system, I've got an engagement system, I've got email campaign systems, I've got content, and they've invested in lots of pieces of technology that maybe or maybe not they've integrated together. And so tools sprawl has gotten ahead of them. Getting reps productive has changed, and really understanding buyer intent, where they are in the journey, and trying to bring that all together has been a challenge.
Yeah, because I hear it all the time, and the amount of administration and overhead, also kind of the division of labor, has been kind of really separated. Certainly in the 90s and the early 2000s, we had inside sales. Now we have a whole different definition of sales development.
Yeah, I'd say.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, sales and revenue teams have honestly, they've lost a bit of control over the selling process.
Yeah. And that's it. And I hear, what is a qualified meeting? I hear all these debates and I'm like,
yeah.
Because the only metric at the end of the day or the end of the quarter that matters is revenue. And the activity is good, but only if it generates revenue.
That's right.
Now, how are you going to market with this? Because first of all, you got a hot technology in a little bit noisy space, not so much crowded as far as what you do, but crowded as far as options to spend their money on.
Yeah, kind of give you just maybe the 2-second elevator pitch for Clary, which I think will help lead into this conversation. So unlike traditional CRMs that solely or rely on manually entered data by reps, right? So the data is only as good as what the reps putting into the system of record to show where risk is in pipeline and forecast. And what Clary does is, at least its AI platform, automates much of the manual data entry, analyzing data inside the CRM, analyzing data across a myriad of sales, marketing, buyer intent signals found outside of CRM that'll never make their way into that sales CRM system. They just don't, right? So this gives the sales team, right, if they've now got their CRM system automatically being updated, they've got all these signals coming in from all of the other selling systems, from top of funnel systems to marketing systems to SDR systems and all level of engagement in between, including email and calendar. We can now take a look at an opportunity and really understand where it is and apply it and analyze it against, let's say, 2 years worth of other data on how deals have moved through the funnel process. Yeah. So it gives sales teams time back to sell. It gives the heads of sales and marketing visibility into the pipeline and forecast that, quite honestly, they never had. And it makes it easier for us to build new pipeline, close deals, and make forecasts more predictable.
And how do you use it internally? Have you gotten away from
Well,
the commit, the most likely, the worst case, the
so we still, so yes, those terms are still used, but
yeah.
Clary has definitely transformed how I lead, how I run a business, and the things I start to look at. So the first thing Clary did for me, right, is I'm Clary's typical buyer. I'm a sales manager who's been leading and managing a business for over 10 years, and I've predominantly run the business off of spreadsheets for forecasting, terrible reports that have come out of the CRM, and word of mouth, telephone tag, and talking to reps and rolling that up through levels. So what Clary's done is, by having everyone in the organization on the same page, meaning an opportunity is what it is. A sales rep can't hide. The storytelling goes away, and the data is the data, right? So if you have risk and an opportunity, you have risk. Now, what are we going to do about it, right? What are we going to do to help this deal get healthier? Do we understand, what the relationships look like, and what the buyer intent is, and how this deal compares to others that we have done? And so it's allowed us to be much more efficient, to go from an inspection mentality into a coaching mentality. And so I've seen sales reps evolve so quickly, because that rep manager one-on-one becomes a time of coaching and a time of alignment and a time of clarity, versus, in the old world where it was a lot of storytelling and poking and prying to get it out. But as you go beyond that, right, and you're starting to roll a business up through multiple levels of management, that management by judgment. So we talked about commit, gut, and best, right, earlier. Clary is actually giving its score against the health of that leader's business. And so when you start to look at things through multiple lenses, right, health of business, what the AI is scoring, what all the signals, good signal or bad signal through multiple touch points on an opportunity, and then that leader's, natural instincts, you can really start to triangulate and understand the health of your business.
And that's it, because I always looked at forecasting should be owned by the manager, not the rep. I mean, the rep is incentivized typically on a 6-month to a 12-month and not on a quarterly number, where the manager is very much focused on the quarterly number, if not politically, financially. And they understand, or should understand, how companies buy. So they should understand where a deal is and where it has to go, versus what anyone thinks, feels, or has, a kinesthetic judgment on it. Well, what do you look at for where a deal really is?
Yeah, so one of the nice things about Clary, right, is that as you look at where a deal is in each sales stage, the first thing I'm going to look at is the CRM score, right? So this is the data that is being entered into CRM by the sales team, but also automatically by Clary. And we're giving that opportunity a CRM score. But we're also creating what I want to call as an activity score, right? How engaged are we with this customer? How many meetings are taking place over, Zoom? How many face-to-face meetings are taking place? How many emails are going back and forth? Is the customer sending emails back to us? Are they opening the documents, right? So if I'm 2 weeks out till quarter end and I've got an important deal, and all of a sudden I say, hey, I don't have a next meeting on the calendar. My documents, my red line, I've got no red lines back. I haven't had engagement with certain stakeholders that need to be engaged. I can see pretty clearly, hey, I've got risk on this deal, and I can see that without actually having to even get that rep on the phone. So now I'm going to be having a different conversation, quickly, to help that sales team, shore up their opportunity. So at different times during the quarter, right, you're going to be looking at different signals within Clary. Maybe you've got a huge opportunity that you're working, let's say one of the biggest companies on earth, and you've got multiple parts of your organization engaged, and you're going through security check, and you're going through proof point, and you're going through legal, and all these things. There's a lot of constituents in that company that maybe you're not engaging.
Yeah.
And so, I can see, right, is my marketing team helping me nurture them with correct message as we go through certain sales stages? I can see that through Clary. And if I'm not, I can go to my head of marketing and say, hey, I need help here. Let's make sure we're all delivering a common message to all the constituents at this big company who are engaged with us.
And that's it, because I think forecasting, you have to have these little asset tests. Do you know all the people that you need to know? Have they opened the proposal? When does it expire? Who has to approve it? When reps used to tell me, oh, it's in procurement, I'd say, well, who's the contracting officer's name? And they go, I don't know. Then how do you know it's in procurement?
Yep.
And they go, well, I sent a quote. That means it's in an email box. It doesn't mean it's in procurement. And half of the problem is I don't think many people understand how companies buy. I mean, can the product or a process kind of enlighten the managers on that pattern deal after deal?
Yes, and so I think one of the things that's super important and that Clary brings to the table, right, is when you do business with Clary, we're going to bring over 2 years worth of your CRM data. And we're going to look at, okay, here's what a healthy deal looks like as it moves through the funnel. These are the things that are completed. These are steps that happen. This is about 200 different signals we're going to take a look at and compare that to how ones are going through in current quarter. And, that really helps us get the health of it. And so the great thing about it is you can start with Clary today. As long as we're bringing your data over, we can get pretty accurate. And I'll give you an example. My first quarter with Clary that I got to run the business from beginning to end was Clary's Q1. And when we finished the quarter, I said, I want to go back and look at what Clary was calling in week 1. And so I went back and I looked at the data for week 1. Clary was 99.9% accurate. So I'm a new leader, right? So it kind of factored in a little bit of my nuances, but it really was looking at the health of the opportunities as they move through the stale stages compared to how deals have worked and moved through Clary. And so that got me super excited. Like, okay, I can rely on my own product. Then I said, all right, let me see what Clary thinks about my second quarter. So I went into our Pulse module, if you will, right? This is sort of forward-looking AI. And I say, okay, here's what Clary is calling in week 1 of my second quarter where it thinks I'm going to end. Let me look at the inventory of opportunities in that Q1. And I got really excited because the health of later stage opportunities, one, there was a bigger volume of later stage opportunities, and those later stage opportunities had a better activity score and CRM score. And so it made me feel really good that I could again rely on the AI of Clary to help me figure out what the shape of the quarter was going to look like. But more importantly, okay, it said, here's the things that are going really, really well. Now I can spend my time looking at other areas that myself and the management team and the team can invest in with the sales org to promote other opportunities into a better stage. And then I have more free time to start looking at out quarter and building pipeline and getting a super strategic and surgical with my marketing organization, right? A growth company, right? So we're not just going to go throw a ton of money out there in marketing. We're going to get surgical with it. And Clary actually helps me figure out where I've got, where I may need more pipeline in out quarters.
And that's it, because I think that the natural view of a CRM is you just see this bucket, unsorted list of contacts that then get evaluated. Have you touched it? And the rep has to use their own judgment. And sometimes they use no judgment. They just go in alphabetical order. And I think focus is the superpower of great salespeople, because how many of those deals are going to close, and in what order are they going to close? And if they're not going to close, it's a waste of time, right? You're building up a pipeline for someday. And the best reps I've known have always been like laser focused on the deals that can and will close.
Right. And we all know this, right? Some of the best reps are usually the worst users of a CRM.
That correlation is incredibly high.
It sure is, right? And why? Because they know what they're doing, right? And to them, the CRM is just a system of record. It's there for management. It gives them nothing back.
Yes.
But what Clary actually does is, so a lot of what they would have had to done manually, we auto capture and update the CRM with. And so, they love us because they don't have to do that. And so we're giving them time back. And then 2, we're also capturing all this activity data. And so I actually now have another lens to help look at a really good rep who traditionally had been bad at CRM, but doing all the right things. And now I can see, hey, they are doing all the right things. I see they're engaged, right? Why? Because modern selling, we use so many different touch points that are that we can capture data on. So I have a really good lens to not only inspect and help and coach all types of reps, from the great reps who do no CRM to the great CRM hygiene reps who don't know how to sell.
And that's it. And when a rep looks at their pipeline, having a second opinion on it that isn't just a beat them up opinion and telling them do more, but can kind of look at the deals and point out the missing pieces or what could happen. Because I've always viewed sales as much better of a prevention profession than a repair profession.
Yeah, correct.
So where do you see this going? That this kind of AI applied to pipeline, applied to territories?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that Clarity's done that I wouldn't say we actually go out there and advertise so much, but the system automates data capture and provides insights into risk and upside and close. But really, what's going on is we've built the industry's only time series database for revenue operations, right? So automatically captures and snapshots business and activity and data and combines it with the organization's execution history to create AI insights that make every marketing campaign, quarterly business review, forecast collaborative and data driven. So essentially, we start to be the single point of experience for the revenue cohorts in an organization, from marketing to inside sales to solution engineers to customer success, all those that touch customers. All these people use different systems that are tracking and engaging with signals. So we actually become the place where all this signal data comes together. AI and machine learning is applied against it. And truly, you now have an understanding of the collective world of your revenue, right? From very top of funnel to middle of funnel to bottom of funnel to customer journey. And I think you're going to continue to see us expand and invest in this connected revenue operations platform. And it's truly become transformational. We even now have, and I'm not going to say even, we have a lot of customers who present to their board out of Clary, and boards that actually mandate that their portfolio companies present to them in Clary. And this is the greatest thing for me, right? QBRs, we don't use PowerPoints anymore. We present the entire business out of Clary, and it's always about moving forward. It's not about, again, storytelling, and everything becomes more efficient. And I love when I hear posts on LinkedIn from our customers saying, hey, first QBR where we did it entirely out of Clary. Think about it. You just saved a manager hours of time creating that PowerPoint deck. And then you saved his reps or her reps hours, if not days, of having to fill out a PowerPoint deck so that they could present the business in a way that that individual manager wanted to see it. Had a customer last week send me a screenshot. So this was a leader of a really large organization for North America. Sent me a screenshot. Hey, presenting to our president entirely out of Clary. No more PowerPoints. So we're trying to make the life of the salesperson better, more efficient, more aligned. And honestly, we're trying to help these heads of sales. I'm not going to call it like an insurance policy, but really we're there to help companies overachieve, identify risk, and focus on the areas that might typically be harder to find.
And that's it, because what I think the CRM alone had created was gamesmanship, where managers moved away from talking to reps to looking at dashboards. So if the dashboard didn't look the way, they'd yell at the rep would make the dashboard look the way it wanted, but there was no correlation between that activity and accomplishment. And, there was this constant, 3 times revenue in pipeline, but they didn't understand. It's like, that's made up and forced to be made up. And believe me, I worked for the largest portfolio company out there, and it was ubiquitous. So you had to now administrate that 300%. And then through the quarter, have a story for why it slipped or wasn't as good as you thought it was. And the gamesmanship and playing Office Space was really distracting from what is the real job of generating revenue.
Yeah. I'll tell you, storytelling and telephone tag goes completely away. I'll give you another example, right? Where we all came from. Sales operations and finance produces a forecast package. that forecast package goes to whoever head of sales for, let's call it feeder. That then goes down to SVP level, goes down to GVP, AVP, right? So that forecast package gets pushed all the way down. That first line manager then has a forecast call with their reps. And again, storytelling, inspection, they take their notes, and they put it in the Excel. Then that first line manager gets on the phone with her second line manager, and they put more notes into an Excel spreadsheet. It's a different Excel spreadsheet, right? And then that process from day one with reps all the way through the hierarchy to the time it gets to, theater president usually takes over a week. And by the time it gets up there, the data, one, was never accurate, but the data is now a week old. There's so much judgment and storytelling on it that you can't rely on it. And no wonder, right, these big companies, have maybe 18% rep attainment, right? Because they have no predictability, so they throw a lot of people at the street. And two, they're always surprised at why their quarters might fall apart, especially for one leader. The quarter might just fall apart because maybe they were forced to forecast something that wasn't accurate. Clarity changes all of that, right? So no longer do you have to go through a multiple process to roll up the business. The forecast is always 100% accurate because the data is always real time. If a head of sales says, hey, I want you to change this deal, we'll use old terms, right, from upside to commit, they don't have to go chase that rep. SVP calls manager's on flight. After he gets off the flight, he calls her, the rep. She's like, I'm in the car, I'll update it when I get home, right? Today, that's all real time in Clary. So the function and the challenge of forecasting, I feel like we've done a really good job of changing, eliminating, and making it really visible, real time, and accurate. And the accuracy is, I think, tremendous.
Cool. Hey, Kevin, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and learn more about your company?
Absolutely. So the best place is clary.com, www.clary.com. Anyone who wants to personally reach out to me, I'll give you my email. It's kevin.k@clary. I would love to talk to you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview. Hey, I want to make sure you're checking out b2brevenue.com. That is where you can get a free copy of an ebook that I did. It's a real ebook. It's not a fluff book. It shows and talks about how companies make buying decisions and how you can influence that from both a marketing and a sales standpoint, how to find all the people that are in the decision path and what they need to see, know, and touch and feel before they make a product selection. If your team needs some coaching, some help, some training, some systems, some processes that do work today, because we know what doesn't work, or what doesn't work, I'll show you what does work and how to connect and get into pretty much any account. It includes deal coaching and content community, and I can customize it for your particular company. Just go to b2brevenue.com, look under training, schedule a call with me. We can talk it over, or just sign up. You can pay per month or all at once, whichever makes most sense for your budget. Also, I put out videos pretty much daily on LinkedIn and on YouTube. On LinkedIn, it's Brian G. Burns, and on YouTube, it's Brian Burns Sales. Just search for that if you like to consume some video content. And if you see me on LinkedIn, please put a comment and a share and a like on some of the videos. I really appreciate it. I've got a company page for each podcast. This one, the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast, where I put both content and humor videos out daily. And tell a friend about the podcast. Really appreciate you listening. Check out the show notes for all the partners and the connections you can make there, the coupon codes for the products to evaluate them, see if they're a right match for you. And we'll see you next time.